2, 1. Blog Talk Radio. Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name to the wind. Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden rings are waiting for you once again. Coming back to you. I'm longing for my family, coming back to you. I'm a bondage and now I am free. Da 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 da. Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name to the wind. Come back home to Africa. The fatted calf and golden rings are waiting for you once again.
Greetings and salutations. Come on in, one and all. Come on in, family. Welcome, Tasha's Touch. Welcome, Shamakia, beloved. S. Marie, come on in. Tomcat, all is truly and indeed a blessing. Mia, greetings, beloved. Welcome to Revolutionary Voodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Come on in, welcome. Come on in, welcome Blog Talk Radio, area code 845-277-9143. 845-277-9143 is the area code and call-in phone number. Press the number 1 on your telephone keypad when you're ready with your question, comment, or request. I'll be more than happy to unmute your mic. You can also follow the StreamYard link scrolling at the bottom of your screen and turn on your webcam and your microphone and join us live here as a co-host, as a special guest here on our broadcast of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. All is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, come on in. Greetings, JP Tarot, beloved, welcome. We're going to talk about time traveling, time travelers, a little quantum metaphysics, a little voodoo and hoodoo. Yes, come on in. Greetings and salutations. Welcome YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Come on in. All is a blessing. Come on in.
To Africa. Come back home. Da 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 da
Eshu Alegwana Kosi Were Awo Uto Ne Iwo Ada Afan Bo Osi Obatala Mi Ita Ne Ebo Olio Oban Eshu. Eshu is the respected elder who flogs, confronts, and uncovers fools. That one versed in mysteries uses truth to own you. He causes scatter to feed poverty. Obatala shakes rascals to have sacrifice. The owner of warnings is the one who is Eshu, Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Ashe. May I ever reach your room. May I ever be accepted. May I ever allow what we desire to come to pass. And so we say, Ashe, Asheo, and Ashe. Divine, all blessed greetings and salutations this divine Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday evening, depending on where you are right now on the great mother globe. I'm certainly sharing again with you and always for you, live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, quantum universally from this working temple of the House of the Divine Prince. Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central, in this beautiful, historic, enchanted, and most haunted, some would say most haunted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this hoodoo, Obeah life path and journey, passing down the great Obeah stick along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, and indeed minerals. And as our beloved Denise Augustine would say, our sacred stories, our sacred stories. We are gearing up again to actively provide tour plus experience here in this beautiful city of New Orleans. And so we invite you to sign up, register, get your appointment, your RSVP request in at www.oursacredstories.com, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate you moving forward. Of course, I can, as always, be reached by way of my website at www.houseofthedivineprince.com, www.houseofthedivineprince.com, and my email address, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is DivinePrince at houseofthedivineprince.com. Divine Prince at houseofthedivineprince.com. That is temporarily scrolling at the bottom of your screen. I will reshare the live link, StreamYard link, in the active chat for those who wish to come on in and join me. Greetings, Goddess Initiative, Kayla Williams. Greetings, greetings, beloved. Farai Falai, greetings, greetings, Nina Lloyd. Welcome, welcome. Did I miss anybody? Takara T, blessings to you. Beloved Rollins, greetings, greetings. Thank you for joining in with us again, checking in with us again. We certainly am grateful for my long-time listeners and participants and co-hosts, but also my new listeners and participants and soon to be faithful co-host. A beautiful son, greetings. Evelyn Preston, greetings, greetings. Um, Matt Austin Bay, greetings, greetings. And of course, the Gold Rider, the Master Builder, greetings. I'm always humbled and honored by any opportunity to come here and share this platform with um, at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time through multiple streams. First and foremost, my foundation is blogtalkradio.com/the divine prince. That live calling number is 845-277-9143. But I'm also as equally grateful for my YouTube, my Facebook, my Twitter, all of the other social networking sites that we can now be shared and participated through. My EarthCam page, I don't talk about my EarthCam page enough, but I'm certainly grateful for any opportunity that I have to share with you in this sacred format that we self-create here at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time, or whatever time it is in your particular time zone. And those of you who keep showing up, who keep participating, I'm always seeking to bring something new, to add a little extra something to the show, only to be reminded by my most faithful listeners and participants, just stick to the constants, just stick to the foundational points, and everybody would indeed be satisfied. But I am, operating in a market that continues to expand each and every day with TikTok and Instagram and all the various new technologies that are available for practitioners and said practitioners and would-be practitioners to sort of come and bring history, bring truth, bring knowledge, and indeed ultimately bring the secrets and recipes of these traditions as we know and understand them. I often intersect many tones, notes to create a harmony so that more than one demographic, more than one group of people hear my message, receive my message. I certainly don't want to lessen, the viability of the platform any more for the long-term listener than I do for the new listener, any more for the established practitioner, any more than I would for the person who's maybe just beginning. So I often weave many notes, many tones together to sort of get a point across, to get a message across. And I want to talk a little bit more about time traveling. I've talked about this on many occasions throughout the dozen or more years that I've been doing Blog Talk Radio, and certainly in the time that I've been doing the live podcast. We've talked about quantum metaphysics. We've talked about time. We've talked about interdimensional space. We've talked about the fact that we live and exist within a range of multi-dimensional spaces that coexist together to sort of make up and create the lattice or the weaving of the basket that creates the reality that we exist in and that we indeed coexist and share within. Time traveling is sometimes also used in therapeutic circles, and it can reference, for example, someone who spends a great deal of time in their head, in their emotions, in their feelings, in the future, worrying about what if, and what if this happened, and what if this were to occur, or what if I don't have enough, or what if I'm not enough, leading to anxiety and anxiety based disorders. We also hear in some therapeutic circles that living in the past creates depression and other negative feelings and a reoccurring time loop, if you will, of energy, of hurtful words or events that reinforce a past that can only be relived in memory, but not entirely redone, renewed, rewritten. We can indeed, and I've discussed over the years, utilizing various sources to sort of reprogram, to do shadow work, to come at bringing more light to the shadow. And in some cases, indeed, understanding the shadow that might hide, that might lurk, behind the lit places. When the sun casts its great light, upon a scene of trees or physical objects, it indeed creates a shadow behind it that is sometimes lost if we don't move around or shift position or shift how we might view a person, place, thing, or any particular subject matter. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about time traveling from various perspectives, not just the therapeutic ones, of course. The idea that we can only really occupy the present, our greatest power, our greatest magic, our greatest connection with God, if you will, is that which we create and recreate in the right now, in this most present moment in time space. For indeed, the past is now just a memory. What I said 13 minutes ago is now just a memory, and you'll have to go back and catch it in the archive. And indeed, what I might be conjuring up to speak forward in the next, 15 minutes still only exists in the realms of imagination until it has been crystallized in the present, in the present moment that we live and breathe and have our being and our existing, in our existence within. Understanding that we always begin each and every endeavor on the foundation of our great ancestors. We rest and have our very being on the shoulders of mighty, mighty ancestors, those who came before us, who literally laid the foundation upon which we now have our standing and our being in biology, in chemistry, in DNA, in physical makeup. But they also continue to exist and coexist as is now supported by science in DNA memory. And science now supports what we in the realm of voodoo have always understood, and that is that the dead never leave us, those who pass on never leave us, the ancestors really never depart from us as long as we keep their energy alive, keep their names alive, and indeed recognize that it exists in our blood. And DNA is still a new entryway into science, a new, marketplace for debate and conversation and speculation. But it's still a very powerful, powerful tool that many are discovering to connecting the dots between where we are today and perhaps where we were before. So as humans, we indeed carry and possessed a great ability to move in and out of time space, and not just the present one that we physically occupy, but indeed when we get lost in the daydream, when we get lost in the memory of, we are momentarily, temporarily suspended between more than one time space. And so those who we suppose would be living a great deal of their waking time worried about the future as opposed to planning or creating for the future. And those who are spending a great deal of their time living and existing in sort of a past that now cannot be re-raced or rewritten, but certainly improvements to ourselves, to our environments, to our communities can be made to ensure that a different outcome continues to move forward for not only ourselves, but then those who would follow us. So time travelers, not just the extraterrestrial ones or those guys who step in and out of the matrix, and kind of throw a wrench in the work every now and again, to sort of mix up what is the seasonings of life. But indeed, when we wake up in the morning and we reinforce first our connection to God, understanding that the Black woman is God, the Black woman is God, the Black woman is God, and therefore all humanity passes through the womb of the Black goddess, is born divine. I've here in the last few days been using sort of the analogy of being born human. You are indeed first an infant, a toddler, an adolescent, but still human nonetheless. And so we are dually created spirit, created divine, in balance with this physical nature, this physicality that we temporarily coexist within. And so we're born God each and every day that we confirm and reaffirm this in our own consciousness. We send that energy back out into the universe to return to us, not void, but created and recreated in a reality that mirrors our own best interests. So we reaffirm our connection to God, our connection to divinity, preferably at the rising of the sun. Many of us now live in these artificial dimensional spaces of time. We don't get up with the sun anymore. We aren't, witnessing the moon at night. Many of you are getting up to an alarm clock or getting up to your pets or getting up to your children or your spouses. Not many of us still live and exist in harmony with nature. And so sometimes we have to remind ourselves to do so, set an alarm to do so, keep a note to remind us to not only check in, with the moon, once or twice or four times a month, but indeed each and every day we reaffirm our presence in the cosmic universe, our presence in the body of God, in the body of that which is spirit, each day that we indeed resonated in our consciousness. We don't just celebrate, still having physicality, with each waking day, though we hear that a lot. We're grateful for the breath of fresh air. We're for, that waking moment, but I also strongly advise and suggest that we reinforce our presence in God, in the cosmos, in the universe, before we begin to think about anything else that may or may not be happening in our day. My second or third question is often, how do you feel? How do you feel? After first affirming your God self and acknowledging your physical self when you take that breath, when you realize that you're still operating in humanity, how do you feel? And if we cannot answer these questions in the most affirmative of vibration, it is indeed a sure hint that we might have some shadow work that might need to be addressed. So time traveling and time travelers are an important dynamic to our being human. Certainly as creative people, as artisans, as musicians, as writers, as people who sculpt in clay, who paint, who create poetry, who write lyrics, who use other forms and modes and methodologies of creating and being a part of the extended creation. We indeed have an opportunity to not only, I lost where I was in my own thoughts. We indeed have an opportunity to not only create and recreate a reality that mirrors our best interests, but to ensure that we're moving forward in the process. So when we ask ourselves, how do we feel? And we're not affirming the most positive responses, then it's an opportunity for us to strengthen our light and to indeed go into our shadows and pull out that which might otherwise be hindering us from furthering ourselves along the journey. So, time travelers. So, time travelers as artisans, as creators, I'm back on track now, as those who make things, create things, who add something to our lives, spend a great deal of time looking into a supposed future that mirrors our best interests. It might be a product, it might be a service, it might be a special gift that you have, an instrument that you play, and you envision yourself. You might be a public speaker, and so you envision yourself giving the successful demonstration, giving the successful public speaking event, giving the successful showing of your products, seeing yourself complete a job interview or passing through some other life challenge successfully. So we are, as humans, divinely created to be time travelers. On another note, we may indeed be descendants of an extraterrestrial ancestor, which has programmed us to be uh, sensitive to time traveling and interdimensional time space in preparation for a greater self that even we as a human race cannot presently envision. But we could do a whole nother show on just that topic. But indeed, artisans, cooks, chefs, you see the final product that you're creating. You envision your fresh ingredients, or maybe the fresh ingredients that might be available to you at the marketplace that particular day at that time. And then you envision a final product that you can whip up, that you can prepare. So we are all, as humans and divinely created as humans, are given access to the past, to the present, in our to the past, to the future, in our present state of being, so that we indeed can have some point of reference for building upon and then creating and recreating. I don't really teach or share or like to talk about things that I haven't done myself, haven't tested, tried, been through indeed myself. And so it was at a very, very young age, I would say, that me and my sister Wapani started playing around with ideas that you typically don't associate with toddlers and young children. But we can even now as adults remember playing around with ideas of meditation, ideas of rhythm and synchronicity, ideas of time travel. And we could share a created sacred space of some sort that as children we instinctively knew how to do, and find ourselves, visiting Asia, visiting little children on the other side of the planet. And we sort of teach, and in some cases beat, this sort of practice out of children. We overdevelop our children to outgrow imagination. And imagination indeed is the intellectual property of today, whether you be in science, technology, pharmacology, any other advanced industry. It is indeed those who are not only educated and degreed, but those who are still able to access their imagination as it relates to solving the problem, the equation, the complexity of whatever the subject matter is that the expert is addressing, is indeed those people who are the highest paid, the most valued. And as society continues to move forward in technological advancement, move forward in discovering the skies, move forward in better understanding what lies at the bottom of the ocean, better understanding how we're able to tap, power within the lives and bodies of our plant and our vegetation life, we will see more of those positions being given to those who are not only most educated, most skilled, and most trained, but most able to access their imagination and use their imagination in addressing whatever the said issue, problem, block, or complication is. I like to watch a lot of documentaries, as you can imagine, and I've watched many documentaries on using mushrooms and peyote and other substances for transforming the mind, transforming mental health imbalances, addressing perhaps addictive issues. And one of the common denominators that I've witnessed in seeing these documentaries is our ability to tap and utilize imagination to heal ourselves. So when we set up a block or an illusion of a block, a issue, a complication around an event, around an incident, and then add layer and layer of energy on top of that, sometimes over years, sometimes over decades, sometimes over the course of a lifetime, that energy takes on a whole nother life of its own. And so the ability to be able to go back in our minds and readdress what we might otherwise look at as a mistake or a challenge or another way of doing something or addressing something is something that I'm offering that God and the gods and the ancestors built into the system of our becoming more and more in line with our God selves, our divine selves. And so being able to move forward in our minds, in our imaginations, and perceive a reality that may not mirror our past, that may not mirror, what we might be living and experiencing today, but being able to create a goals and in a road, uh, a goalpost, for lack of better words, that we can build towards, whether it be financially, whether it be physically, whether it be, again, in developing a skill or some other attribute that we want to enhance within ourselves. Our divine nature is to travel and to bring the travel, to bring the experience back into the present moment so that we can then utilize that and build on. Certainly, it is not to be stuck in the living in just the future or stuck in the living in just the past, because then nothing is fed into keeping you alive in the present. Greetings, oh, excuse me, greetings, Tyson, beloved. Tyson Horn, welcome to the show. Imani Sankofa, greetings, 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 sacred love lessons. Peace and blessings to you. Aunt Mary's niece, aka Lady Q, welcome, welcome, T. Warner. Greetings, Chef Bougie. Kevin Brooks. And Chef Bougie, I'm just going to envision that Arisha is not very far behind. But I'm certainly grateful for all of my participants, listeners, friends, family who tune in at high noon U.S. Central Standard Time to hear me rattle on about quantum metaphysics and math and spirituality and science and religion. I'm certainly grateful for you. And let me check my Blog Talk Radio, which I often don't do enough, at area code 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. Indeed, when you're ready with your question, comment, or request, press the number 1 on your telephone keypad. This will sort of virtually raise your hand for me, and it'll let me know that there's a caller in queue, and I will unmute your mic and bring you into the conversation. And I will be vetting all StreamYard participants moving forward as well to ensure that you are who you say you are behind the mask. That the great Oz doesn't turn into the great pumpkin, you know, in the middle of our podcast. So I'm grateful for everyone. So I believe that, you know, the ability to sort of transcend time and space is something that's divinely innate. It is indeed divinely inherent. I would say that the great superpower, the great gods built it into the machinery, if you will, to give us a greater ability to create and recreate a reality that mirrors our best interests right here and now in the present. But we can live over focus on the future and not do the work in the present. We can get stuck in over focusing on a past and not do the necessary work to move things forward in the present. And so there's, as in all things voodoo, all things Ifa, all things ATR, there's balance. There's, again, seeking of balance in all things. I can remember being able to consciously move in and out of time as a child, and now with a more mature mind, quite possibly, you know, as a way of buffering myself, you know, against trauma. But I could, you know, I would often, especially as I got older, 15, 16, 17, you know, I would take public transportation wherever I was at the time, whatever city I was in at the time, and I would find the wealthiest neighborhood that I could walk into, that I could, you know, bus into, take the subway into, and project myself into a future, you know, that did not in any way mirror the reality that I had experienced, nor the reality that I was going through or experiencing at the time. And in many ways still have not acquired, still have not reached, but created a reality that was very accessible, one that felt real, that looked real, that smelled real, that I could walk in and out of at will, that would project me outside of the trauma of the day, the trauma of the moment, whatever circumstance my life was in, you know, in that time, and would envision myself in a future, whether it was in this life, you know, or even into another life, but a future that did not mirror the reality that I was experiencing at the time. And so from doing, you know, mind exercises with my baby sister to being a teenager on the street at 14, 15, 16, trying to envision a reality other than the one that was bringing me pain in the moment, opened up opportunities for me to explore using sort of these universal laws to my own healing, but also to my own benefit. And I'm finding that now, as a person of a particular age group, being able to tap your emotion, being able to tap your imagination, being able to come up with the next creative, storyline, the next creative content, that you're going to post, has everything to do with our ability to not only see and exist in the present and understand what's rational, what's usable, what's plausible, what's practical within the present, but to also use our imagination to create and recreate realities that might not necessarily mirror our present, that can only show up in forms of art demonstration, forms of literary demonstration, other forms of creative demonstration. I remember being asked in university once upon a time, what was the purpose of creativity? What was the purpose of a God or a universal body or spirit giving humanity imagination, giving us creativity, and it's indeed the ultimate problem solver is creativity. But we often separate creativity from the challenge, from the illusion of the issue, the block, the complication. And another way of viewing that is the athlete who puts themselves through, a certain amount of predetermined, what some of us might equate as torture, what others might see as, exercise or physical development, in order to reach a certain goal. And so are we as spiritually and emotionally, and in creatively imaginative, as what we are now expecting our physical bodies to develop to grow to exert to. And in some cases, we're taking shortcuts, you know, plastic surgery, a little pump here and a little additive there. In some places, we're still, taking shortcuts to achieve what might not necessarily be a realistic um, goal, what might not necessarily be a realistic ideal of perfection. And so, again, I believe our imaginations allow for us to create and recreate worlds that we might think we want to live and exist in, but give us a place to sort of try that out without actually having to sort of live through that. Does that make sense? Did you get what I just said? Being able to just imagine doing a certain thing or being a certain person, or living in a particular part of the world, and having a space, a safe space, a creative space to sort of envision that, try that out without fully committing to it, in real world time. It's an extension again of our co-relationship with God, our co-relationship with the creators to create and recreate a reality that indeed mirrors our best interests. Greetings, Arisha. I knew you wouldn't be not far behind. Yes, Imani Sankofa, it is indeed a superpower. And it's a greatly underrated superpower. Because again, it is your writers, it is your creators, it is the makers of a product that often have the largest number of zeros behind their bank account. you know, are often the people who create the thing, who make a thing, who come up with the idea. We now say intellectual property. That wasn't a common word in usage, a common phraseology, I should say, in usage in the 1960s and the 1970s, when I was growing up. In my memory, the first memory I can feel in my body of us saying that had to be in the last 15 years, maybe, just the notion of intellectual property. Once upon a time, we believed that anything of value was physical. Your house, for example. Then, we went through that 1980s, the material 80s, the Reagan era, designer jeans leading to designer this, that, and the other, keeping up with the Joneses, being a thing, rebuking the idea of the welfare queen. Some of y'all know what generation I'm talking about. I may have went too far back on some of y'all, but yeah, it was at that time that we had to have a Cadillac and we had to have a Lincoln, and then we had to be re-educated about value, and understanding that your car loses a certain amount of value. It's the minute you drive it off the lot, as opposed to your house, your property, your things that we tend to invest in for the longer term. I was probably well into my 30s back before I understood the value that depreciates on certain items versus the value that continues to increase, on other items. These are the kind of things that inquiring minds need and want to know. These are the kind of things that our young people need to fully understand, by the time they're 10, 11, 12, and indeed much younger, if we can make that happen. But we have a society that at the same time puts up roadblocks to imagination, puts up roadblocks to creativity, still to some degree presents a more industrialized future as somehow a more secure one than one dependent on art or dependent on creation of things. And we know that that is indeed changing. It is indeed turning, in the last 20 years. Being born in the late 60s, live in a very unique time to sort of see and even remember black and white TV while still knowing what HD TV is, and how to stream and how to apply that. So imagination is the closest thing to spirit, in my opinion. Our ability to create and be imaginative is the closest thing to God, in my opinion. A person has to learn to navigate their imagination and their visualization and their dreams and their mind imagery to be a reader, to be a prophetic speaker, to be a prophet, to be a bit of a fortune teller requires your ability to navigate your creative imagination and determine real from imagination, determine plausible from what's not plausible or it's not realistic. So I think being, again, the time traveler can, one, be an extension of our extraterrestrial ancestry, but two, for those of you who aren't there yet, can also be just an extension of our just divine humanity, our being both clay and earth and organisms and mammals, but also embodying spirit. And the question, do animals possess soul? Do animals possess spirit? But we watch and witness dogs, cats, other animals, experiencing the dream state. And we fully understand what the dream state is. Now, is it just a regurgitation of what has already taken place, what has already happened? But is it also, an idea of something to come, a wanting of something to come? So our closest spiritual connection, I believe, is our ability to create, our ability to be imaginative, our ability to be childlike in many ways in how we look at or address some problems. Some problems require a more childlike mind, a less cluttered mind to address. And then there are other much more complex, equations in our reality that come with the benefit of wisdom, of maturity, of being an elder of a certain age, and then pulling from our elders, taking the offerings of our elders, and then the offerings of our ancestors, which forever resonates in your blood, for forever resonates within the DNA. Greetings. I hope I'm not missing my chat. The Goddess Initiative says it works both ways. Those negative thoughts exist in the duet and crystallize in the here and now. Yes, yeah, in the dark matter, in the dark energy, and in some cases, indeed, in the body of the black hole. For some of us who are adhering to a ritual calendar, today is a black and blue day, or a black, blue, and white kind of day. And it's a day that I like to pull out black stones, like black tourmaline, for instance, which can contain and process some of the higher vibratory levels of light and of white light. If you see how the light hits the surface of your black tourmaline in those bright spots. And so we use black tourmaline to remove negative energy, to get rid of things that we don't need, while stripping away the truth, while stripping out what's most useful, what's most beneficial, and charging that with light so that it can be reinfused in other ways in our reality. Understanding that all energy was created at the Big Bang, all energy. So the energy has to be cleansed, has to be stripped away to go somewhere. We don't just smudge ourselves clean to take our spiritual baths and it all just sort of goes down the drain. Well, it goes down the drain to where? Just like the rest of our plumbing, it has to go somewhere. Just like our garbage, it has to go somewhere. And when it's not contained, when it's not properly handled, then it ends up somewhere else in nature, quite where we, don't want it. Not fully understanding that it's still here. We bury it under the ground. We buried it beneath oceans. We put it in barrels and tuck it away in caves. To what end? To what end? And in the past, with the understanding that, I'm only here for a quick minute. I'm not really concerned about maybe those who are coming after me. Some would even say they weren't concerned about, us. So, and it has gotten passed down. But as society has continued to evolve, we better understand now that, your plastics have to subsequently end up somewhere. Your contaminants subsequently have to end up somewhere. Your waste product subsequently is recycled to the best of its ability, but then ultimately it has to end up somewhere. And so when we are, removing said dark energy, when we're doing, said shadow work, when we're doing the spiritual bath, the cleansing bath, even the baptism, where then does the shadow go? Where then does the darkness go? If indeed light is energy and energy is eternal. So, as a bit of a amateur quantum metaphysician, I look at other things that exist in the sky, and how they resonate with experiences that we have as spirits inhabiting the physical incarnation. So, your black holes, your supernovas, your other stellar and cosmic events that happen in the sky, that humanity is still growing up to, still evolving to in our understanding. We're still not entirely clear on what dark energy is and how it operates, what dark matter is and how it operates. We could only use our imagination and a little bit of math and a little bit of science to sort of envision a reality that mirrors our present level of understanding. And as we continue to grow and as we continue to evolve and as we continue to learn more, and gather and gain new information that then subsequently can and will and should transform. It should evolve with time. And so each generation should be smarter than the last generation, should be better equipped than the generation that came before it. And so we've seen, young children now who can navigate devices and technology, but grown folk, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, who can't navigate their emotions, who can't navigate their feelings, who still can't navigate their thoughts, who still can't navigate their memories, and in some cases are having a hard time navigating their visions of a future, particularly if they're using the prism of their past, or even in some cases their present, as sort of a temperature as to where they're going to be in the future. And so we would think that with certain technologies and certain developments in the world, that it gives us a little bit more time to not hunt protein, to not gather, you know, and that we should have more brain power, that we should now be a little bit more spiritually, mentally, emotionally mature. But we may be missing something in the time that we take to just feel the breeze on our face, to just experience the change in the weather, to look at the stars in the sky, the moon stages in the sky, other, sky events. We could also be losing, chipping away at our imaginations, chipping away at our dark conscious, our subconscious, chipping away at the possibilities of what might exist beyond the said known world, what we have been taught to accept as the borders of reality, into something else, into indeed the unknown. So we are time travelers, and so we are also to some degree, what's the word? We're more. Me and my cousin were talking about this yesterday, I think it was. We're more than one person at various moments in our growth, in our evolution, in our reality. We're not always the same person either. Some of us, in bad traffic, a rough day, certain triggers in place, you become a whole nother person than what we see when you're here in this room, or when you're in line, at the grocery store, and you're confronted by, the Karen or the Shaniqua. You become a whole nother person. Some of us, and I, once upon a time, was a guy who claimed to be, I work better under pressure. I so had to believe that at the time. I was under pressure at the time. So it behooved me at the time to believe that I worked best under pressure, and then to sort of live up, to that. But as we grow, as we evolve, as we learn new things, the pressure should, just like a good workout, or so I've been told, the pressure should be reevaluated. The amount of weight should be reevaluated, and the challenge should now be evolved to another space in our evolutionary process, to allow for a greater degree of growth and development. It's real easy to anticipate, even in our imaginations, things in the world being perfect, having, all the money you might desire, having all the love you might want in the world, all the physical, possessions you might, desire in the world. And even in the context of thinking that in our imaginations, what then is the challenge? Where then lies the challenge? And how then do we further our ability to grow? I watch a lot of reality TV, probably as much reality TV as I watch documentaries. I'm mix my academic entertainment with my sort of reality based entertainment, and it's real curious to me as sort of a social science, an exercise, social exercise. These people are said to be beautiful. In some cases, they're claiming to be more beautiful than the average. More money, more resources, spouses that are wealthy and attractive and entertaining and funny and all that kind of stuff. But it is in those moments of drama that the ratings are highest, that the audience is said to be the most invested, the most likely to be tuned in. And it's something about, you know, the active learning process, if you will, of the reality that is entertaining to us on camera, but not so much when it's happening to you in real time, you know, in real dimensions, whether it be your spouse, your children, health issues, other degrees of crisis that, this world, this life, humanity can sort of throw in your way. And it only further sort of stretches my imagination, my ability to envision how creativity, being able to be still, be silent, to be meditative, to be visual. For some of you, it's just as difficult to dream and envision color as it is for you to sit in silence for 15 minutes, or to sit in stillness, for a few moments. And so we've got to be careful that we're not losing parts of indeed our divinity as we continue to sort of redefine humanity and what human is and what it means to be human. Yes, beloved Orisha, everyone can get caught up on their humanness, including myself. And when you don't do it, nature has a way of putting you right in the zone. Sometimes it's health. Sometimes it comes up in other ways. Greetings, Cheryl O. Greetings, beloved. Tammy Pryor. Yeah. Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Tyson Owen talking about A-tracks. See, you really trying to like date certain people in the room. That's not cute. So what about reel to reel? Okay, I had a reel to reel. Okay. I had a reel to reel, and I would, before mixing and rapping and hip hop was even like a thing, I had reel to reel, and I would lay piano tracks that I would play myself on top of each other, to create, certain sounds. Little did I know, little do we know, what we're playing around with, what we're experimenting with when we do go into our imaginations. And that's why I strongly support journaling. Journaling. I'm begging you to journal. I'm, pleading with you to journal. I'm offering to you to journal. I'm giving strong advice that you should be journaling. It's just amazing to me, particularly in this group, the businesses that we just let float in one ear and out the other, the book ideas, the movie ideas that we allow to come in and sit on our chest and then like a butterfly just fly away without documenting that, capturing that, writing that down, audio taping that, videotaping that. And so we're not computers, but we are indeed God having this physical experience. And so, like with the atmosphere and the changing of the currents, whether they be water currents or air currents, the movement of life, whole businesses pass through our grasp, whole ideas. And some of you remember back in early 2020, I said that there were some people that were doing some things, working on some things, that were going to make them millionaires in a year, wealthy, in the coming years. Again, birthed out of creativity, imagination. So not only are we like time travelers, we're also able, within the confines of our spirit and our imagination, um, envision being things other than just human. We somehow have humanized pets to a degree, to where we've sort of lost the line between humans and and humanity and our pets. The usage of caricatures and avatars now has elevated in a whole new way in our entertainment, in our movies, in our videos. Um, Squid Game is just a whole nother something else. Just yeah, it's a whole nother something else. Greetings, Big Chief. Greetings, greetings. Welcome to the room. Oh wow, a whole hour has passed. I'm certainly grateful for you all taking the time out to listen to me share, to listen to me ramble, to listen to me teach, depending on who you ask. I'm always grateful that my family shows up, my blood relatives shows up, my neighbors show up, my friends show up, my frenemies show up. I like, you know, again, what creativity and imagination and the usage of technology can do for us. For some of us who grew up in the Jetson era, we've been looking for the Jetsons for some decades now. We closer now to what we saw on the Jetsons than any other time in my living reality. We're much closer. What we're still lacking are the flying cars, some of the technology and machinery that would ultimately replace jobs and people, if we see it the way it was envisioned in the Jetsons. But creating food, creating products, and just spitting things out. We certainly have arrived at that. With the Walmart era, with the big box era, the mass producing of plastic and metal and cheap metal products that like your cigarette lighters. Where does all of that end up? Whose ocean does that end up in? um, you know um, your dishware, not your expensive dishware that you plan to keep for 40 years and pass down to your daughter, but the cheap stuff that y'all buy at the dollar store, that you buy at Walmart, that you get at Target, that you get in Bed Bath and Beyond. Whose ocean does that end up in? So we've got to check our cycling and recycling of energy. Greetings, Big Chief. Oh, it's okay with timing is all relative. Timing is relative. You're here indeed when you should be, when you need it to be, when spirit need would have you to be. So as long as I don't show up late for the show, I guess we're good. I guess we're good. Yes, so we're also, time traveling. We're also, able to be more than one person in the course of our human lives. Are we a bit of shapeshifters to some degree? Maybe not in the fullness of the word, but are we indeed shapeshifters to some degree? And do we indeed become and change who we become to the outside world along with our physical development? You outgrow shoes, especially when you're a child. You outgrow clothes, within a season, within a certain number of months. Indeed. But then as you get a little bit older, you start to buy things that you maybe are on trend, and you might keep them a few years, and then as you get even older or more mature, and in some cases, a greater degree of income, you might buy things that last longer, that have a greater degree of value, that you might need to put in the cold storage do certain, seasons, of the year. And so are we indeed also shapeshifters? We dress a certain way when we're young and flirty, and everything is not so serious. And do we change, not just as you become parents, but maybe you take on positions in the community, or positions, in your culture, or positions within the dynamics of your church, and we change, and we go through a metamorphosis, along with that. So we are talking today, for my newcomers, about being time travelers. And we talked a little bit about, how excessive time traveling can lead to real world disorders like anxiety, living in the future. Too much worrying is living in the future. I wonder if, do I have enough? Am I enough? Is this going to happen when my child, is out there in these streets, in the streets? That's living in the future, and creating a degree of anxiety. Too much living in the past can lead to depression, can lead to a low sense of self-esteem, can lead to, excessive, sense of over accountability for things that are in your control, or were not in your control, whatsoever, but we play them out and replay them out. And we talked also about how, I believe that it is divinely innate and inherent to be human, that we be time travelers, that we have an ability with our imagination, with our minds, with our spirits, with our hearts, have the ability to go forward and backward in time for beneficial purposes, as long as we're conscious of the beneficial purpose. So then I went on to talk a little more about, not just being time travelers, but we sometimes being more than one person at various. Some of you have your workplace persona versus your at home, when you hang it out on the stoop with your neighbor's persona. We have our professional face, and our casual face. You have your private face for your loved ones and your intimates, and your closest, of friends. So we're also more than one person at various stages of our development and our growth, and our evolution. It's curious to me when people say, "Oh, you're being fake," or "What is fake?" And again, it's one of those big words with no real clear, defining, parameters, except for those of the person who's using the word at the time. And so we metamorphosize, and change up in our humanness, from our animal nature to our spirit nature, depending on the task, depending on the lesson, depending on the crossroad that we might be in. Um, and I'm brand new every 5 years, Goddess Initiative. It kind of reminds me of something that I learned, back in my 20s, that every cell in your body, I believe it's every 7 years, every cell in your body has to be renewed, regenerated, recreated, every 7 years. So every cell in your body has to be renewed, recreated, redone, and some regenerate a lot faster. Skin cells, your hair cells can generate a lot faster, but much more complex organs, every 7 years are basically remaking themselves out of what has been the past, what has been fed into it, up until a particular point. And then, the future is sort of measured out, between God's timing and how well we take care, of the vessel, of the body. And that too is transforming, how my grandparents viewed health and wellness and diet and nutrition is very different from my parents' generation, is very different from my generation, and is indeed different from the 30 somethings and the 20 somethings that are growing up now and are beginning to, have children and raise children. So I like that idea of being a brand new you every 5 years, uh, being conscious of your body's ability to remake itself, to renew itself, to repair itself, you know, through seasonal change for however length of time we've been blessed with, we've been gifted with here on Mother Father Earth. Greetings, y'all. I got something in the oven I need to go and check on. Give me just a quick moment. I invite your questions, your comments, your requests, your phone calls at area code 845-277-9143. 845-277-9143. Do press the number 1 on your telephone keypad, and I will most certainly unmute and open your mic. Just give me a quick moment.
A dash of cayenne to the root. Gonna put on my grease suit. Boil a gumbo, hot and steady. Don't care if it's ready. Gone free at that old cemetery. Down on Claiborne where she's buried.
Thank you for your patience. It's not burnt, but it's where it needs to be. So I'm grateful I stopped it when I did. I am so appreciative of those of you who join me here at high noon, U.S. Central Standard Time, all around the world, whatever time zone it is in your world. And I'm always amazed at the movements of the Blog Talk Radio map, which keep track of your listening audience and where in the globe they listen from, where they might reside and or listen from. Hong Kong, Australia, UK, Canada, and of course the United States have, long been some of my top listening audience. But I'm also grateful for and thoroughly surprised by places like Indonesia, the Philippines, India, China, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, places that I can't speak your language, but indeed you can speak English and understand ours. And we're grateful. Japan, Russia, Australia, um, South, South Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Niger. I'm always grateful when my audience in the motherland listens and participates. I'm also often conscious of politically what's going on in certain areas of the world and how that may affect the listening audience. For example, Ethiopia, Tigray, all the drama that's happening, in that region of the world. None of our Northeast African countries are lighting up as they once did. So the internet has either been greatly curtailed there or limited in terms of people's ability to access the sites that they normally would access. Or it could just mean that my audience has gotten smaller in some of the Islamic regions of the world. But we still have a strong audience listening in Turkey, in Iran, in Pakistan, in India, Bangladesh. And so these are regular participants, regular listeners to the show. Of course, Europe, Germany, Austria, France, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, the UK. I'm grateful for my regular and consistent listeners in the Ukraine, Poland, Finland, just amazing to me. Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, Democratic Republic, Democrat, Democratic, excuse me, the Dominican Republic. Some reason I always get Democratic Republic of Congo and Dominican Republic in my head, on my tongue at the same time. But yeah, we're listened to still just all over the world, and it's just amazing to me. The pandemic has affected listenership, I believe, to some degree, and so in certain regions, the listenership has increased, and in other regions, the listenership has decreased. But I always think first to look at politics and what's going on in that region of the world that could affect their access to Western uh, education, Western entertainment, Western internet, Western social media. For example, you can't access Facebook in Ethiopia um, uh, unless you can hide your IP address or show up, in other regions. But generally speaking, you can't access social media of that type in a great deal of Ethiopia. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Um, like many of you, this should be and it's consistently going to be more of a lunch break for me. Okay, I'm going to stop either burning up my meals or letting my meals get cold while many of you enjoy your midday snacks while you are listening and participating in the show. And I'm certainly grateful. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes before I move forward. Big Chief Kevin, yeah, we still got some things to talk about in terms of your podcast. I also want to make sure you're aware, since you are in the neighborhood, of the event Miss Gloria's giving at the Garden. For those local New Orleanians, Miss Gloria's Garden here in the 70116, the 6th Ward, Miss Gloria's Garden presents Zohar and the Free Spirit Drummers and Stilt Dancers. This will be August 20th. That's Wednesday? From 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at 900 North Claiborne. They're asking for $15 by way of Cash App. So that's your $ Ms. Gloria Garden. So there's no Glorias, no S after Gloria. So it's $ MS Gloria Garden. Join us for a fun-filled evening of drumming, dancing, stilt walking performers, uplifting the spirits of New Orleans after Hurricane Ida. I believe this was rescheduled from an event that was supposed to have happened a few weeks back. And so it's October 20th between 5 and 9 p.m., 900 North Claiborne and Dumaine. You can also visit Miss Gloria's with an S, MISSGLORIAS Garden, Miss Gloria's Garden.com. And you can also visit her and her lovely daughter by way of Instagram at Ms. MS Gloria's GLORIAS Garden on Instagram. And of course, if you're local, you can text me, email me, if you want a reminder or you want more information about this event at Miss Gloria's Garden. Love Miss Gloria, another successful transplant with the green thumb, just like me. I had a bit of a green thumb when I was up north. I continued that on when I moved south. It's one of the reasons I moved south. I wanted to be able to grow, harvest food, herbs, plants, all year round if I wanted to. So I appreciate Miss Gloria and what she brings to the community. Her events are always fire, on lit, as the kids say. So I invite you to support her and this upcoming event on Wednesday evening. Got a lot going on. Some projects that I'm indeed working on, some that I can share, and I do, and I will continue to do so when I can. Others that I cannot, that I've signed non-disclosure and contractual agreements on, but there'll be a lot happening in coming weeks and coming months and in coming days. And so I appreciate every one of you for your continued support. As I said earlier in the show, beloved Denise is in full motion in terms of walking tours and in some cases riding tours. But I think for the most part, walking tours. Uh, she, like I, has a COVID protocol that she's following. So make sure you reach out to her to schedule your tour plus experience here in Treme, here in the Iberville, here in the Lafitte, here in the French Quarter, here in this beautiful city of um, New Orleans. I am limiting new people coming in to initiate. If you are not already in motion, if you're already in motion, everything is cool. And I'm indeed grateful for the families, not just the individuals, but the mom, the dad, the grandparents, the uncles, the aunts, the kids. I'm just grateful for the whole families that are indeed, I'm seeing signs that, our community is slowly beginning to make that turn, to turn that corner from, re uh, addressing sort of a religious dogmatic structure, that has been placed on us, to one that looks more in our image. Indeed, more people are turning to the ancestors now than ever before. Um, DNA services like Ancestry.com and 23andMe have played a crucial role in moving that forward, in my opinion. Not just sort of the general honoring of the ancestors, which really goes back to the time of Marcus Garvey, and most certainly times before that are just not quite as well documented. But today, a more your actions are now lining up with what we say. Our demonstration is beginning to line up more with what we say we want and what we say we believe. And I'm truly grateful to be a part of that ministry and that movement, and giving people a place to retire to look for, to run to. I'm never been here to sort of prophetize or witness or convert people to voodoo. That's never been my goal. However, as people continue to flee from and move away from, organized religious systems for their own reasoning, I just want to be able to present an alternative that's reasonable, that's rational, that's realistic, that's attainable, that's empowering for us, as it has been established for, our cousins, in other parts of the world for generations now. The time when we will see generations of Africans born in America making the journey to the motherland continues to increase. Making the journey to Jamaica, making the journey to the Bahamas, making the journey to Brazil, only continues to increase. But we're also seeing sort of a soul journey within, taking this soul journey within to the deeper, spaces of who we are, and what we bring to the table, and what already exist and stand up, in our DNA, our memory, in our ancestral memory, in a space that we are continuing to carve out and create, where we can do that um, peacefully within the confines of our own space. Create sacred spaces for honoring ancestors, for acknowledging ceremony and ritual within our community. Much way we have temples and religious structures and buildings and clubhouses, for hundreds of years, in this country. A time where we can see that beginning to form and beginning to look more like ourselves and indeed like each other. So I look forward to continued opportunities to work, not just, with the individual. And Lord knows I love and support the individual, who comes to me on a request or out of a need or a sense of urgency. But I also am very appreciative of the whole families, the married couples, the moms, the dads, the lovers, who are now teaching their children and their families, how to acknowledge the ancestors and how to respect traditional African based and indigenous Aboriginal world systems, how to respect uh, these cultures and practices, if if not on equal footing, to on a greater footing than before, absent of white supremacy and oppression and racism and bigotry and many other things that we still continue to battle, continue to face. Greetings, Craig Burns. Greetings, greetings. I certainly appreciate you and everyone else who's here with me for another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes on Blog Talk Radio, StreamYard, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, not Instagram, EarthCam, and many other locations. I'm certainly grateful for those of you who will enjoy and listen to the show in podcast, in archive. So I'm always grateful for those who take the time out of the middle of your day to be here, to be present, and to share with us in this space. Indeed, I'm grateful. Today we are feeding and acknowledging the warriors, our foundation builders, those who bring not only foundation but structure and discipline and order and organization. The ancestors that taught us how to feed ourselves, how to house ourselves, how to create tools, how to create weapons, how to make advanced technology for healing. This is a day in the ritual calendar of things that we acknowledge those who came before and who passed those gifts down by extension of practice and by blood to us. And it's for that I'm indeed grateful to be here with you. I'm going to move forward, and shortly, my hunger is now getting the way of my thought process. I certainly am grateful for everyone who's showed here with me today on all platforms. I look forward to sharing and being here with you again next time at high noon US Central Standard Time. Remember, you can always visit me 24 hours a day at Divine Prince at houseofthedivineprince.com. Divine Prince at houseofthedivineprince.com. My website also has a contact form. So if you just go to my website at www.houseofthedivineprince.com, there's a contact form that you can also fill out there that will automatically email your question, comment, or request to me. I look forward to assisting you further in your endeavors. Okay. So thank you all for being with me today, this October 18th, Monday, October 18th. And I look forward to connecting here with you again next time. All is truly and indeed a blessing. Ashe, ashe, ashe.